We talked in class about what the essay is all about and why we teach it the way we do and the styles of essays that we have in English. And I was telling you that the rhetorical patterns that we have in our program, and these are these ones all the way up here, okay, are advantages, disadvantages, compare and contrast as a paragraph in FE3, cause and effect, problem solution, those are the two that we do in AE2, and then finally in AE3 we do the argumentation. And the reason that we have these rhetorical patterns is not just a Mount Royal choice, it's an English language choice. Okay? No matter where you are studying an academic English language program, these types of rhetorical patterns come up over and over again. Because very often when we get into credit programming, you will be asked to approach a problem or a task in your coursework by writing a short answer or an essay saying, tell us the advantages of, now I'm going to have to try and think of something. Tell us the advantages of providing free daycare for all children under the age of 4. Okay? Or what are the causes and effects of providing free daycare? What are some of the problems and solutions around the national child care crisis in Canada, for example? So there's lots of reasons why we do these types of rhetorical patterns, and it's because it helps you to then learn how to organize and develop your ideas so that you can be successful in credit programming. Then we talked about the different parts of the essay. Okay, so we talked about what the introduction is, that we have those 3 body paragraphs, and that we have a conclusion. Okay, and remember now we're specifically talking about the advantages and the disadvantages essay. As you learn different rhetorical patterns in AE2 and AE3, you'll see that the numbers of body paragraphs and points and supports required is different for the various different rhetorical patterns. Okay, so then we went ahead and we looked at what are the different types of, what are the components or the parts of each part of the essay. So in the introduction, we started with that hook, okay, and the hook was is important because what it is it captures the interest of the reader. Okay, so you want to say something interesting that's generally about the topic that you are writing about. That next sentence, we weren't sure what to call it at first, but then we established later on that that's our bridge sentence. And that's because you need something in between the hook and the thesis statement. The thesis statement had those components of a controlling idea and the topic. And in your course pack, okay, on page, I think it's page 55, it's either 54 or 55, you have all of those examples of what they look like. Okay, then we went ahead and we talked about what the body paragraphs are about, okay, and that those body paragraphs have topic sentences, points, and supports, okay. And then finally we finished by saying that a conclusion does these 3 things. It restates the thesis statement, it summarizes your topics, and then it offers a final reflection. So those are the parts of the essay that we're going to be looking at in AE1. We then went on to talk about what the writing process is all about. Oops, that didn't work very well. Let's try that again. Here we go. What the writing process is all about. And there are several steps that are involved here. There's brainstorming, there's outlining, drafting, editing, redraft, edit, redraft, edit, redraft, edit, and you do that until you're finally satisfied with what you have. Or, in my example in class, I said, sometimes you just run out of time and you have to hand it in, okay? We then talked about the importance of what this pre-writing work is about, okay? And my advice to you was to pay equal attention to each of the steps in the writing process. Very often we have students that want to jump straight into writing without taking the time to really effectively brainstorm or outline. And I can almost guarantee that if you go ahead and start writing without brainstorming or outlining, chances are your essay is going to be a mess or lacking in some kind of coherence and cohesion. And this is what we've talked about as well, right? We talked about today, whoops, I don't think I can talk and write at the same time. Whoops, I don't think I can talk and tech at the same time either. Okay, so we talked about coherence and cohesion, right? And that's how well the ideas are organized. When you do your outlining, what you are doing is deciding what you are going to say. Okay, so that when you start to draft, you can now just think about how you are going to say it. If you're trying to think about what you want to say, while at the same time trying to think about the grammar and the vocabulary that you want to use to express those ideas, it's going to mean that your coherence and your cohesion will probably suffer. And that's not because you're not a smart person, that's just because you're writing in a language that is not yours. And it's hard to ask your brain to do those two things at the same time. So it's much easier to set your outline and set your content, and then decide how you're going to say that. When we start drafting and looking at doing the actual writing, you've got lots of other things that you need to be thinking about, right? You have to think about sentence type. You need to think about verb tenses. You need to think about transitions and vocabulary. Okay? You need to think about whether I need a simple sentence, a compound sentence, a complex sentence. Okay? Are all of the pieces of information that I want to represent, are they represented effectively with vocabulary that I'm choosing? Am I repeating my vocabulary? What other words can I use? When you think about all of those things while you're drafting, you don't want to be thinking about all of this while you're also trying to decide, oh my goodness, what am I saying in this essay? Okay, you want to keep those things separate for yourself and make it a little bit easier. And the way you do that is always by effectively taking the time to brainstorm, get lots of ideas on the page, okay, then work to categorize or organize your brainstorm, then write an effective outline so you know what you're going to say, and then you can start writing. And I guarantee that when you do this and you do this effectively and you take the time, what you write is going to be so much better than if you skip these two steps. And students at this level are always concerned with their accuracy in writing. Are the sentences okay? Am I using the right grammar and vocabulary? So when you get your mind around the content and you're just dealing with how you're expressing that content, then that's a lot less work than having to deal with, coming up with the ideas all at the same time as writing it. So I hope that makes sense, and if it doesn't, then you know where to find me. Book some office hour time, and I can go over this with you and answer any questions that you might have. All right, see ya.